Greetings, Fiend and Fiendettes. It's been a while, so I'm going to give you another installment of Uberdemon's Movie Morgue. This time, I'm going to start off with a literary segment. I'm going to start off with the new issue of Horror Hound magazine. Unfortunately, I'm still waiting for issue 100 of Rue Morgue to hit newsstands here in the States, so I don't have that to show off yet. It's their big, spectacular 100th issue, and I'm going to be picking that up whenever it comes out. However, I do have the new Horror Hound. It's available in just about any bookstore you can go to. I happened to get this copy at Barnes & Noble, but I also saw a copy at a local comic shop. The cover story is obviously City of the Living Dead, and they're talking about the upcoming Blu-ray release. And there's also a comprehensive horror Blu-ray buyer's guide. I definitely recommend picking up this newest issue. As always, Horror Hound's a great horror magazine, and it's poised to please any horror fan here in the United States, especially here in the Midwest. And I'm going to delve into the world of Japanese horror comics just very briefly. I've been really getting really into Hadashi Hino's stuff, which I've got a couple of his comic books here, which they're pretty graphic, but like cutesy graphic, like some like just worms crawling all over corpses and stuff like that. It's like Hello Kitty meets EC Comics. That'd be like the best way I can describe it, or like kids grade anime meets EC Comics. That's pretty much like the best way. Like here's a show. I think that's supposed to be Death or some kind of specter or something like that. But you see the worms crawling out of his nose hole. That's pretty cool. But also kind of encompassing that, Hadashi Hino also did Mermaid Manhole, which is part of the. I don't remember what his exact involvement was in the movie. Either he wrote it or directed it or both, I think. And this is another film from the Guinea Pig series, which just happens to be The Devil's Experiment and Android of Notre Dame, which I kind of wish I had more of these. I'm trying to get a copy of Mermaid in the Manhole, but funds are kind of limited right now, so I'm kind of holding back until funds get better again, and maybe I'll buy a copy online for cheap if I can find one. But I digress. But The Devil's Experiment is basically like a pseudo-snuff film. They did not claim to have any cast. It's kind of like you just found this movie just lying somewhere in a pile of dirt, and they're just going through random series of increasingly worse abuse on a poor Japanese chick. Android of Notre Dame is kind of a cyberpunk horror kind of a movie, and I think it's the better of the two films on this disc. Definitely worth checking this out if you're into that kind of stuff. And I actually happened to find this at Half Price Books for $7, and these are becoming increasingly rare to find out and about and online even. So if you happen to find a copy for relatively cheap, go ahead and snag it up quick. And continuing briefly within the realm of Japanese horror comics, this series has just come out, Biomega, which is done by the same guy who did Blame. I'm a big fan of his work. I like the artwork in his comics. They're very cool, very graphic, very action-packed, lots of explosions, lots of shooting and stuff like that. This is the first copy, and basically the story behind this series, here's the second one, is that it's set way in the future, and a bunch of people go to this Mars colony that was destroyed by a virus. And this virus ends up coming back to Earth, and basically the virus turns people into cybernetic mutant zombies, and that's really cool. The storyline's been really cool and fast-paced so far. I really enjoyed the first two volumes, and I can't wait to see the rest of the series play out. I'm going to continue within the realm of horror comics, and I happen to find these at Half Price Books for really cheap. I found them at Borders too, but it's like double the price. These were like under $10 at Half Price Books and nearly $20 at Borders. So if you see these at Half Price Books, pick them up because they're badass. This is a collection of old horror comics from pre-code horror to contemporary horror and up into the turn of the century. Very awesome. Has stuff from magazines like Dark Mysteries, Weird, and all those great horror comics and shudder pulps from days of old and up through today. Even some of Steve Niles' stuff's in here, and a couple of snippets from the Dead World comic. And building upon that, kind of a sister book to that book is the Mammoth Book of Zombie comics, and this has it's filled with zombie comics again from various eras but more contemporary comics, because zombies have really become part of the mainstream horror scene as of lately. They just seem to be becoming more and more popular. But there's a lot of great comics in this one as well. Again, if you see these, don't buy them anywhere but half-price books, or you're going to be getting ripped off. I mean, those are great buys for under $10 each. So I'm going to go into the realm of cinema again, kind of jumping around a little bit. Remember, you might remember me talking about Pumpkinhead a few times, and more specifically in my last episode, I mentioned I found a copy of Pumpkinhead 3 at Big Lots, and said that I wanted to find Volume 4, or the fourth movie in the series. Well, I did. Pumpkinhead 4, and the tagline is called Blood Feud, or the subtitle for the movie is called Blood Feud. And I bought this at Fry's for about $10. And I got this at Big Lots for about $3. And I can tell you right now, I wish I would have spent $3 on this movie, and I would have gladly paid $10 for this one. This, the third in the series, was definitely much better. It was directed by Jake West, who you may know. He did Razor Blade Smile and Evil Aliens. He's a great director, great writer, just great guy when it comes to the movies that he's made. And this one, and part of the reason what makes this one silly is they focus more on the characters in the story instead of the character of Pumpkinhead, because the characters in the story are the Hatfields and the McCoys, which you may or may not know. The Hatfields and McCoys are based on are real family that have been feuded for centuries, and then basically I think they ended up killing pretty much everyone in each family off here and there. This is actually directed by a different director, not Jake West, which kind of explains why it's so different from the third one. I thought it was a good concept, just a poor execution. This could have been a great movie, a great fourth installment. It wasn't horrible, but it could have been a lot better in my opinion. And of course, as far as the other movies in the Pumpkinhead series, they're all vastly different. But I highly recommend the first three. The fourth one, it's a great way to kind of cap off the collection if you're trying to collect them all, but I wouldn't say it's a must-have if you're not trying to collect them all. I'm going to go on to some more cheap scores that I've gotten. First cheap score, I found this at Big Lots. It's Return of the Vampire, which this movie's really cool because it has an older Bela Lugosi playing Count Dracula, or actually a Hungarian vampire, not Dracula, Armand Tesla. And he actually has a werewolf servant in this movie that's trying to, when he's werewolf, he's all about helping the vampire out, but when he's human, he's like, oh my god, what have I done? Like the classic werewolf character. And again, Big Lots, $3. Who would have known? Definitely worth picking up for that price. And I'm not familiar with how big of a franchise Disc Replay is. I'm pretty sure, from what I remember, they have quite a few franchises across the Midwest. But it's a great place to get used movies for low prices, and it's also a great place to trade in video games and movies. They give you pretty good trade-in values. They gave me good money for the stuff that they were willing to take, which they took most of the stuff. They couldn't take a few things for various reasons, but hey, that's fine with me. If you need to trade in video games, that's the place to go to trade it in. They'll give you good money for your used equipment.